What's up, everybody? It's Florida Man as usual. I'm chilling in my highest high rise in all of Boca Raton, and you are listening to the Sit Down Marks podcast.
Hey, yo.
If I can be serious for a minute.
Oh, yeah. Acknowledge me. What's up, everybody? Come on in, sit down. It's episode number 164 of the Sit Down Marks podcast. Welcome, everybody. I am the Dirty Bird DB, and today I got a very popular guy on the Midwest independent wrestling scene. He's coming live from his high-rise condo in Boca Raton. Everybody's been asking me about this for a while, and he's finally here. Everybody, please welcome Florida Man. What's going on, brother? Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you very much for having me. I'm very excited.
Of course, man. How's life in your highest high rise in Boca Raton?
Beautiful and sunny. Just trying to avoid those hurricanes and alligators.
Yeah, man, for sure. Especially those alligators, man. Those things are crazy. So,
yeah.
So how was your 4th of July, man?
What's that?
I said, how was your 4th of July?
It was all right. Spent most of it consoling my anxiety puppy dog, but it happens once a year, so we prepare for it.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I understand that, man. So a lot of people tuning in now are wanting to find out what the Florida Man is all about. So let's find out, man. Let's start off with it. So tell me, what got you interested in wrestling? Was your family, watch it as you were growing up? Like, when do you remember seeing it for the first time?
I do remember seeing it for the first time. It was actually because I got grounded from video games for swearing at them.
Sure.
And, so I just flipped my little 19-inch box TV in my room as a kid to a random channel, and I was catching the tail end of John Cena versus Tyson Tomko match on Monday Night Raw.
Wow. There's a name I ain't heard in a while.
Yeah, hook, line, sinker from there.
Nice. Tyson Tomko. So did you look at that guy and go, I want to be like him?
Yeah, Tyson Tomko was my first favorite of all time.
Wow, that's funny. Yeah, I knew you were kidding. A funny story though for you. So one time I got into a hotel like really late. One time, I can't remember what city I was in, but got in real late, checked in, went to sleep, got up the next morning, and I come downstairs. There's Tyson Tomko and Christian getting coffee. I'm like, wait, what's going on around here? Like, is there wrestling in town? And, I just missed it. Apparently, I think it was in town the night before they were about to cruise off to the next town or whatever. But everybody always asks me, they're like, did you go up and say hey or something? I was like, no, I just kind of was, a little awestruck, that, I was seeing these guys at a hotel, you know what I mean? So that was kind of funny, but Tyson Tomko is the name I always remember just because I saw him that morning in the hotel lobby, but whatever. Side story there.
Neat.
Yeah. So who were your favorite wrestlers growing up?
Well, right off the bat from that moment, it was John Cena at first.
Sure.
He always remained a top guy for me, but the more I got into it, the more I fell in love with Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
He's been my GOAT since like 2006, 2007. And whole HP shizzle.
Yeah, man. Yeah, can't go wrong with that. I mean, he's in everybody's talk of the greatest ever. You know what I mean? He's in there with a handful of guys, and what I love is too about his work still stands up. You know what I mean? It still stands up. I watched Bad Blood 03 or 04. Triple H, Shawn Michaels. Shawn bled like a stuck pig for, basically, the whole match. But the whole time I'm like, God, man, these guys are just killing it. Like, I'm kind of in this phase where I'm going back and watching old pay-per-views from the 2000s, and I'm in 2004 now.
Yeah.
But watching this, I'm like, I've kind of forgotten how good, this match was. Not shocked because Triple H, Shawn Michaels, this, It's fantastic, man. But yeah, it's always kind of cool to be reminded how good he actually was. You know what I mean? So I'm glad he's still a part of the business too. So, what part of the world are you from, Florida, man? I mean, obviously you vacation and you live in Florida now, but what's the actual, where do you stay?
I was actually born and raised right here in the Midwest in a small town called Sterling, Illinois. It's a smaller city, I'd say. I've lived in smaller towns than Sterling for sure.
Sure.
But I was born at KSB Hospital in Dixon, and my family lived in Sterling for years. Got moved out to Oregon, Illinois, about the summer before 5th grade.
Okay. And
finished high school up there in Oregon. Nice little town too. And then after I graduated, moved back here to Sterling. And then, as you stated, traveled back and forth to Florida.
Yeah. So Sterling, I believe the Moose Lodge, is that where it was that ZOWA used to run?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the first time I saw you, met you, or saw you wrestle there, maybe, because that was when I first started getting involved with ZOWA in the beginning. I believe that's where they were kind of running some shows, and then all of a sudden they weren't running there anymore. So Sterling, Illinois. Did you play any sports in high school in Sterling at Oregon? Any football, wrestling, anything?
Yeah, I played football for Oregon, and I ran track for the first 3 years. But that was mostly to stay in shape for football. So
yeah, that's what us athletes do for track. None of us wanted to run track. We just did it to stay in shape in the off season.
Yeah, exactly.
So always kind of like to ask. So you said you're born in Sterling. What's the high school mascot there?
The Sterling are the Golden Warriors.
Okay, and who was Oregon?
Oregon was the Hawks.
Oregon Hawks. Okay, cool, nice. I don't know why. There's those things that's always kind of interested me. You know what I mean? So. Yeah. For whatever reason, we were the Wolves, so, not a very common name, but, later on we kind of adopted the Wolf Pack, you know what I mean? So that was, kind of something we, kind of jumped onto later on. But, so outside of wrestling, man, what are you doing these days? What's the shoot job like? What keeps you busy?
Shoot job's good. I was just telling you, I deliver paper and office supplies for a local company here in Sterling.
Right.
I basically get paid to drive around, listen to music and podcasts, and
hell yeah,
occasionally talk to people and give them their orders.
What you're actually supposed to be doing, right? Like, oh, yeah. I mean, hang on, my podcast is almost over, and then I'll give you your delivery. Yeah. Oh man, but before we get to Florida, man, and and everything involved with that, you were Bailey Bright in ZOWA Live, and so let's talk about training there, man. Talk to me about like the first day you walked in ZOWA. Who did you see first? Who helped you in training? Like, talk to me about the early days.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting because I actually got my start with Funky Monkey Wrestling.
Okay.
When Bobby the Business Houston was running here, and just happened to know a guy who knew Bobby and gave me his contact. And I just bugged Bobby constantly until he told me to come on out to a show and help out. And after he saw me sticking around and helping out, he agreed to start training me in January of 2016. Mm-hmm. And ZOWA Live, the school didn't start till, I believe, March of 2017. So I had like a full year of just messing around training before the Funky Monkey shows with like Bucky Collins and Matt Cage and Mr. Stevens, Stumpy, a bunch of the guys there.
It's a hell of a crew to learn from, man.
And then we had some weekend sessions on what we called the farm out in the middle of nowhere, outside of Linden, Illinois. It was Bobby's like in-laws property or something, and we had a there, and we would just go sweat our asses off and learn how to wrestle.
Yeah.
But so I was wrestling for a few months. I made my first like debut match was January of 2017, and like I said, ZOWA, the school opened in March of that year. So I had been wrestling for a few months before I started actually training at ZOWA. Mm-hmm. And even before that, I remember Pat or Bobby also sending me to a school that Christian Rose was running at the time. So I got some ring time in with him before he even became the head coach for ZOWA.
Right.
And then, I just decided to join ZOWA just to, really hone my craft and all of that. And I'm glad I did, because I learned a lot of good lessons from that school. So.
Yeah, for sure. And let's talk about ZOWA for a second. You're kind of synonymous with ZOWA now, as Bailey, as Florida Man. You had a hell of a run with the bank, with one of your best friends as manager, the Shane Show. Cheap plug. He'll be on the pod next month. Yeah. So just talk about how important that was to you. You know what I mean? I mean, you could have probably, got involved with a lot, maybe worse companies, but ZOWA's really, kind of like, it's probably, your home base, right? Yeah. Like, it's where, you kind of learn everything, but, just talk about how important that is to you, how important Zeke has been to you, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. ZOWA Live has been extremely important to me in my career. I mean, it's where I got my start.
Yeah.
And in some ways I feel like I helped start it. Now, not in any booking senses.
Sure.
Credit all there goes to Zeke Zishi. He's been a hell of a promoter for ZOWA. I've had a hell of a relationship with him, like booker to talent, and also just as friends. And he's given me a lot of opportunities that I probably wouldn't have got many other places when I first started out. So
sure.
Very thankful for him and ZOWA. Very important to me.
Yeah, and since the return of Dreamwave in 2022, there's a lot of affiliation there between ZOWA Live and Dreamwave, and those families of for lack of a better terms, merged together, pretty much, you know what I mean? Because it's pretty much all the same guys. So that's kind of been some helped with getting you on Dreamwave shows, and getting your name out there and being seen and that kind of stuff. So
absolutely. So
let's get to Florida, man. So like, explain to me how this all come about. Like, I really want to know, because I don't know shit about it. Like I want to know how it came about. When we hear Florida Man on the radio or on TV, it's usually like a bad story, something stupid that somebody did in Florida, right?
You can't believe everything they write about me in newspapers but no, it kind of came out of nowhere, because we did this funny little spin at ZOWA. There was this angle where I was actually going on family vacation to Florida. And the day I got back, my flight back was scheduled for a ZOWA Live season finale. And I was supposed to be in the finals of a trios tournament with the bank. And we set up this whole promo while I was down there in Florida about, is he going to make it back in time or not,
Right.
And I was, but we didn't want anybody to know that. So how we played it was like, it looks like I'm not going to make it, so Shane has to enter the match in my place, which is our manager, our Weasley little manager who everyone wanted to see get beat up.
Right.
We make them feel like they're finally going to get that. He accidentally got tagged in somehow at the after the hot tag. And here I come running in, screaming, yelling, wait, I'm here. And I got a Hawaiian shirt on.
Yep.
Kind of colorful shorts, boat shoes, and my suitcase in one hand and tag team title in the other.
Yep.
And I joined the match last minute. And from there, commentary and just other people in general just started jokingly calling me the Florida Man. And I started to lean into the character a little bit here and there. But it actually wasn't until J-Rep from Dreamwave got a hold of the idea. And he deserves a lot of credit for really making that character take off, because he just got a whiff of it and told me all these ideas. Him and Bonds are the ones that told me to grow out my mustache.
Yeah.
J-Rep picked my music, that Val Carretero by Ernest Chico Alvarez.
And it's perfect, bro.
It's so perfect.
God, yeah.
And Jay gave me a lot of opportunities because of the Florida Man gimmick that I'm very thankful for. So he deserves a lot of credit for Florida Man in general.
Yeah.
And I believe that like 2023 was a real breakout year for me. And I believe that like some of my showings at Dreamwave were almost directly responsible for how many bookings I was getting that year, because I was traveling a lot. So.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, and I think, I'm not sure if you were on a pre-show first or if you actually had a match on Dreamwave, but I just remember like the reactions you were getting, you know what I mean? Like, it was the women were booing you and the kids were booing you, but the dudes were like raising hell for you. Like, yeah, we love this guy. He's coming out with his Flowerdy shirts, his sunglasses, and I love your reaction because, you come out and like, you kind of come out with this like kind of aura, like everybody's kind of like supposed to worship you a little. And if you hear one little cheer, you get this like look on your face and you look over like at them like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why are you cheering me for, that kind of stuff. So, and I think more and more people were kind of like getting on your side, and
I love it.
And some of it might have to do with the music, man, because when it comes on, it's like everybody wants to stand up, snap their fingers, seeing you come out with the chair.
Myself when I come out to that.
Yeah, of course you are. You should, man. Yeah.
Dreamwave crowd, any noise they make, it's just palpable in that Knights of Columbus. I get high on it,
Yeah, man. Yeah, dude. Yeah. And so we're putting this gimmick together, right? It's the Flowerdy shirts, the lounge chair that you bring to the ring. Yeah, the Miami Dolphins colors and Miami Dolphins influence. You talk about your high-rise condo, so everything that a Florida man should be, right? Was there any like influences? Like, I want to think like you went back and watched like a couple Magnum PI episodes or something. You know what I mean? I hope you know who Magnum PI is. Maybe.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Good.
I know.
Yeah, Tom Selleck. Yeah. So, yeah. Is there anybody like that you kind of like maybe looked at, got a few notes from or something? Maybe.
I wish there was, honestly.
Yeah.
I kind of like. I did a little bit of research on all these, alleged Florida Man articles.
Right. Yeah.
See, like, I wanted the character to be kind of a blend of like a snobby retiree who, moved down to Florida, and also that unhinged, really like Florida character getting into all kind of mischief.
Yeah.
But a logo that I just had made not too long ago did have some inspiration from the GTA Vice City game.
Oh, nice. The font used like the man. I can't wait to see it. Yeah, that's gonna be great. And another thing too is like, a lot of times, it's might have cooled down a little bit, but I think too, the same people that were cheering you and booing you or whatever at Dreamwave, ZOWA, whatever, when they go home at night and when they watch the news after, there's usually something on there about a Florida man, or you hear radio, something about a Florida man story, right? And then boom, wrestling, they go to, over the weekend, there's a Florida man, you know what I mean? So highly relatable, you know what I mean? And honestly, like that's where it's at in wrestling. You know what I mean? It's like, getting over, it's what we call it. Right. You know what I mean? So, so you were very successful in ZOWA. You like we talked about, you've been on Dreamwave before, but probably your biggest story was probably with a faction that you were in ZOWA Live called The Bank. It had a couple variances in it. 12 Gauge was there, T-Money, you, Shane, your Weasel manager, Dakota, I think, was even in there for a little bit. Yeah, and you guys were, kind of feuding a little bit, So, so talk about The Bank, how that, it was a very long storyline. I think, you and, Shane kind of eventually just split not long ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, just talk about The Bank, man, how that all came about, and just what importance it was and kind of growing the Florida Man character.
Yeah, the bank will always be very special to me. Shane is one of my longest standing best friends. And just the fact that he got to manage me in general was very special. But T-Money, another member of the bank, was one of my own students that I trained.
That's cool.
I was proud of that. And, me and Dakota have history. Everybody I think knows we used to be roommates at one point. But the bank was also special because I went through this metamorphosis from Bailey Bright into Florida Man.
Yeah.
While in the bank, because we had a good year of the bank when I was just a guy doing cool moves, before I really found my character. And then it kind of became its whole own other thing when Florida Man came about, when we were more about the life of leisure in the bank instead of just tearing through competition, So that's, kind of what the bank means to me.
Yeah. There were some awesome little videos that came out of this, you know what I mean? Out of that. I mean, I love the little vignettes, if you will. I think one time,
we just ton of fun doing it.
Yeah. It looked like you were having a lot of fun with it. Probably my favorite one was, I think y'all were at somebody else's house in a video, and it wasn't your pool, and you guys got run off or something like that. Like, shit was gold, man. I love it. Let me rewind for a second though, because when you talked about T-Money being one of your students, how much of the teaching have you done, the training people, and who else, have you had your hands on other than T-Money?
Yeah. So T-Money was in my first round of students. It was just him and FKA Everett Benton. He's now in St. Clair. Two great kids, made it super easy on me. I'm not going to lie. Natural athletes, listeners, they learned fast. And then I trained a couple other kids, Jade Blackwell, also known as Nina, which her and I were friends before training. So there was kind of a awkwardness there when I had to shut it off and be her trainer instead of
right. Yeah, you gotta stand on business, right?
Really.
She wanted to learn though, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, Cody Kaiser is another one.
Nice. He's been on the pod, yeah.
I watched his. There was one more, and I feel really bad that I'm forgetting who.
That's all right, but how do you feel about training somebody? Is it, to make you kind of feel like a proud papa, when you see, I'm pretty sure that Ty wrestled Everett in Sterling at the Moose Lodge. I think that was their first match was against each other.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Ty
definitely like a proud big brother feeling.
Yeah.
You see these kids go out there and do this, and it feels good.
Yeah. How did you become being a little bit of a trainer or a trainer there? Did like Zeke say, hey, I think you'd be good at this, or it was kind of one of those things that kind of naturally happened?
Yeah. Zeke actually reached out to me. He asked me about training, and honestly, wasn't super on board at first.
Sure.
I'm not much of a teacher. I'm more of a doer. And I tried it out, and I'm really glad I did, because I'm proud of the students that I do have, but 2 classes was enough for me. Like I said, I'm glad I did it, and I realized training isn't really for me, but I'm very happy that I do have my little handful of students.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. It's always good to give back, no matter what, kind of business you're in. And I could kind of see your hesitance, for wanting to be a trainer, because you're probably like, hey, I'm not like a 20-year vet, you know what I mean? Like, that kind of stuff. You've been in the business, what, about 8 years now, 7 wrestling?
Yeah. It'd be this coming January would be 10 years since I started training, and 9 since my first match.
Dope. Yeah, so I can imagine some of that coming into where I don't know if I'm qualified, or what I mean, but but looking now, like I've seen Everett wrestle a lot. I've seen Ty wrestle, and Nina, you're doing something right, brother. You know what I mean? So yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about you for a minute, though, man. The main question I've been getting a lot lately about you, when people have been asking about you, people have been asking, well, I'm a Dreamwave, where's Florida Man been? So you're dealing with a little bit of an injury.
Yes.
So let's get that out in the open and talk about it, because I think that was probably like the big question, coming into this. People want to know, where you been.
Well, I appreciate the intrigue. It makes me feel good. It feels like I'm missed. But yeah, I ended up with a hernia, a pretty good one. There are some rumors about how I got it with an alligator in a Publix, but
sure,
no, I'm just kidding. But I've actually had it since about a decade ago. I think I got it in high school sports, to be honest. That's when I started getting pain, and it was always, real manageable.
Yeah.
But you hear horror stories about how big those things can get and how risky the surgeries get once they grow.
Sure.
And once I consulted a surgeon and asked about every doctor I've seen told me that I didn't really need to get rid of it because it wasn't very big. But I consulted with a surgeon who assured me, like, the less risk it is, why not just have that peace of mind that it's not there anymore? And that's kind of the mindset that I adopted to go ahead and get the surgery done.
Sure. So you're on the mend now. Surgery's a couple weeks past you now. When will we be able to see the Florida Man in a ring again? What we thinking?
That I'm not 100% sure on when I'll actually be in ring, but
okay,
that I miss it dearly, and I want to be back in front of all the fans as soon as possible.
Yeah, I know they're definitely miss you, man. A lot of people have been asking me about it. So hopefully that answers a lot of the questions now. So probably something I didn't really want to talk about because I've been in wrestling so long, man. I hate seeing people get injured, whether it's in ring, outside of the ring, whatever. I hate seeing, because it's people's lifestyles. You know what I'm saying? It's something we love to do, and we're only young so long. You know what I mean? So that kind of stuff. So. Let's jump back to Florida Man. So who would you say right now, who do you feel like is Florida Man's like rival? Like, who's his ultimate rival, you think?
That's a tough one. It was short, but I really liked my feud with Bobby Houston,
right,
as ZOWA. But as far as someone who I can go away from and always come back to, no matter the circumstances, like, that story's always going to be there because of that rivalry we have. Christian Rose comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been feuding with him since I was Bailey Bright in the purple singlet.
Yeah.
So lucky, good guy, and it continued into Florida Man's ventures to feud with Christian Rose. So he's probably pick number one. I alluded to it earlier. Me and Dakota have a lot of history.
Mm-hmm.
And he's one of my favorite guys to wrestle because I feel like it's just easy with him. I feel like me and him have good chemistry, and we can talk through anything and work through anything.
Sure. Everybody's got somebody like that, you know what I mean? Like, it's, it never surprises me when somebody says Christian Rose, because I feel like he just melds with anybody. You know what I mean? He's just one of those dudes, right?
Plus, he trained me, so there's that.
Right. Yeah, so there's that. Yeah. Probably one of those deals where he's like, I trained you, but I didn't teach you all of my tricks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've beat that dead horse so many times, but it works every time.
It does. So let's get out of wrestling for a minute, man. So me and you are both big NFL fans. Obviously everybody knows I'm a Falcons fan, sadly, but you, my man, are a huge Miami Dolphins fan. There's a guy in my town where I live in Central Illinois that has a Jeep that's tricked out all in Miami Dolphins. And I sent you a picture of it one time. I see this thing all the time, and every time I see it, it goes by me. I feel like you should be driving it. You know what I mean? Like, it's got the big helmet on the hood. But tell me why, man, because I love talking football with people, And tell me how and why you got on the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah. So I was actually quite the little team hopper when I was a kid.
Okay.
And for whatever reason, the Dolphins were the one that just finally stuck. But I had been I started off a Bears fan, because I was raised in northwestern Illinois.
Sure.
But as soon as I started getting into football, I went with what colors I liked as a kid and stuff.
Right.
One day, I just caught a documentary on the NFL Network about the undefeated season. And
72.
Yeah. It was just a really good documentary. It was such a special team.
Yeah. Mercury Morris. I don't know a ton about it. Yeah.
It just made me really fall in love with the franchise.
Sure.
And that was probably sophomore or junior year of high school. So
yeah, I've always said this, man, they have the best colors, the best logo. I always thought that was just the coolest logo. A football team that's hard and tough has a dolphin, you know what I mean? And just, but who are some of the older Dolphins that you remember, when you first started getting into them, that you were watching, obviously you're too young to see Dan Marino.
Yeah.
I saw him. I have a cool Don Shula story that I'm gonna tell you in a minute, but who do you think is the reason why you started watching, or who was that player that you started on the Dolphins? Oh man, he's awesome.
Yeah, one of those first ones I can think of when I started watching, it would have been Ryan Tannehill, Mike Wallace, the wide receiver.
Yeah,
guys like that.
Yeah, nice. So there's a legendary Dolphins coach, right? Don Shula.
Yes.
I grew up in this little suburb of Charlotte, North Carolina. It's called Lincolnton, North Carolina. And Don Shula, this was probably, I think it was in the 90s. I'm pretty sure it was in the 90s. I was old enough to see the newspaper article. But so Don Shula got stopped in our little town, and he got a speeding ticket. Driving through, I'm assuming he was going to look at somebody, scout somebody. Maybe he was on his way back from the beach. I don't know, but you know what I mean. Who knows? But it was such a big deal that Don Shula got a speeding ticket in our town, in our little small town. I don't know, probably 5,000 at the time. It's much bigger now, but it wasn't on the front page of the paper, but I remember opening it up on the inside, and it says, legendary Dolphins coach Shula gets speeding ticket on whatever, you know what I mean? And there was this big long article about it. I think they even talked to the cop. The cop even had a couple lines in the article about yeah, I was just sitting there, and I walked up to, noticed they were speeding, pulled them over, walked up to the, window, and it's Don Shula. I'm going, man, you should have let him off, dude. You shouldn't have gave him a, you know what I mean?
A lot of locals probably got that laminated.
Oh, you know it. Yeah, you know it. I bet that cop laminated is probably like a notch on his belt, man. But
yeah.
But I always remember that about Don Shula, man. It was funny, he came through my little town. But are you fans of any other Florida teams just because you're a Florida man?
Yeah. I kind of like all the Florida NFL teams. I know it's weird to have more than one favorite. I mean, the Dolphins are my number one, but
sure.
I like the Bucks, and
we can't go there.
I got a lot. Well, that's understandable. Sometimes I like the Jaguars.
Yeah.
And then I kind of just use football to decide all my other teams' sports too.
Right.
By default, I guess I'm a Heat fan if I were to watch basketball.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Whatever other Miami teams. I do keep a little bit of track of college ball because I like the Hurricanes as well, but mostly the Dolphins.
Yeah. All right. So let's get back to wrestling, man. Let me ask you a few questions. What's been your favorite match that you've had so far in your career? And, talking about, on the indies, obviously, who's somebody that you want to mix it up with, in the near future.
Okay. Yeah. One match does stand out to me, like just head and shoulders above the rest, and that's a steel cage match I had with Christian Rose in 2022.
Okay.
I want to say it was like September of that year, because it was just before I became Florida man. I still had the blonde hair and everything, but I was still just bootleg Kevin Owens. But that that match, just I couldn't ask for a more perfect match. It was my first time bleeding in a match.
Okay.
And that was kind of a fun experience, to be honest.
Sure. Yeah.
Special for that, and the story we've always had, and the match just went perfectly, and you just couldn't ask for anything more out of it. I have so many others. I'd like to throw out an honorable mention to Falls Count Anywhere match I had a long time ago with Judd the Janitor as well.
Shout out to Judd.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, man. And I know as a wrestler, that you always want a reaction from the fans. I feel like as a wrestler, you always want, to be remembered, missed when you're not there, that kind of stuff. But I think too, and you could probably answer this for me, equally a proud feeling when you finish a match and you're like, hell yeah, we just killed it. I feel so good about this. Like it's like it's adrenaline, right? Like it's a feeling, with its, probably a little undescribable. It's kind of like why you do it. When definitely, you feel like everything falls in place. It's
definitely its own kind of drug.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, there's that pop that's fun, but when you feel like you nailed it, it's pretty awesome. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I was just going to answer your other question about like any wrestlers that I'd like to mix it up with that I haven't. I do have one dream match that isn't entirely possible, I feel, but I think it would be very entertaining if the Florida man took on the Hurricane.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, man. For sure. Yeah, that one just makes sense, doesn't it?
I've had
shout out to Brandon on Facebook. He's wanting to know when you're coming back to Dreamwave because they miss you. Well, if you're just tuning in, he just answered that question. He's recovering from an injury, and we just have to wait and see. So
yeah, hope as soon as possible. I miss y'all too.
Yeah, for sure. I know the Dreamwave faithful miss you. So I'm a big venue guy. I love backdrops in wrestling. Like I feel like a venue can make a card. No matter who's on it. But what's your favorite venue you've wrestled in so far, and where anywhere that you would kind of be like, man, I really like to wrestle there, like Hammerstein or something. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Well, the Knights of Columbus is special. That place always gets hype, and the production value at Dreamwave is awesome, so that helps a lot. One of my favorite home-based venues, ZOWA Live and Funky Monkey, have both ran out of the Latin American Social Club in Sterling, Illinois before, and that one has I think a nostalgia factor, but it's also nice and big, and we had a good setup with a stage and everything. So. But yeah, I don't really know about any venues that I have. I mean, maybe I don't know the venue name, but the AAW one looks pretty nice. I just never ventured out there.
The one they're wrestling at now, like Berwyn Eagles Club?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Rich history there, yeah. Definitely a spot. I was actually just there over the weekend.
Nice.
What do you do when you're not wrestling, man? So what does the Florida man do, other than, chilling on the beach, when you're not wrestling and, putting people in their place?
Yeah. I mean, that mostly depends on what paper and articles you read.
True.
Yeah. I work a lot. I got a dog, the Florida dog, if you will.
Yeah. Yep.
Go on walks with him. We like to hike and explore and stuff. So,
right.
Yeah. I spend a lot of time with family. My parents live pretty close, so we have dinner together 2-3 times a week. And
yeah, oh, that's great, man. Love that. That's awesome. Got a couple more questions for you, man. And then we'll show you some pictures and have you react to them.
Okay.
So what do you want to get out of wrestling, man? What's the end goal for Bailey?
It's changed over the years. I think most people who become a wrestler have the goal of, being in the WWE or where have you, and when they start. And I think that was mine at the beginning. And then, I don't know, just there was a learning process of like, you go through this learning process of like what wrestling actually is, because it's a whole different ballgame once you're actually in. And you change, your goals change, your life changes. And I think my main goal now has become to do this as long as I can and have as much fun as I possibly can doing it. Because if you're not having fun, then
why are you doing it? Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what it's about.
Yeah. You kind of answered this question again, but I think a couple people are jumping in the chat, so I just kind of wanted to go back to it. What's the rest of 2025 look like for Florida Man?
Ooh, really unclear. Still on the mend with the hernia surgery. But hopefully just sunshine and rainbows for now.
Sure.
Hopefully that surgery is the worst of it. And
yeah,
good times. And
have you seen Ace Ventura laces out Ray Finkel?
Oh yeah.
I figured so. I got another question from Brandon. He said, are you ever going to team up with Dakota and win the Dreamwave tag team titles?
Hey.
Oh,
that'd be awesome.
Right. That'd be a cool little tag team,
Yeah. Roommates reunion.
Right. Yeah. There's your name, Roommates.
It depends on if me and Dakota ever make up. We've gone at it quite a few times the last couple of years.
Right. Yep.
So.
Sure. All right. One last question, man, before we go. What do you keep up with on TV? Do you watch WWE, TNA, AEW? Do you keep up with the corporate wrestling, if you will?
Yeah. I mostly just get all my info on that through like highlights and recap videos,
Right. Okay.
When I got the time. I ironically enough don't like watch a lot of wrestling live on TV anymore.
Okay. Which that's not a bad answer. I've heard it a lot from indie wrestlers, what I mean? Yeah.
A lot of us stop watching once we're working. But
right. Yeah.
I'm actually a huge fan of the Cobra Kai TV series on Netflix.
I've been on the verge of starting that because I watched the original Karate Kid in the theater. You know what I mean? Like the OG one.
If you liked those original Karate Kid movies, then I definitely recommend Cobra Kai. I would, even if you haven't seen them, but definitely if you have.
Yeah. Maybe I need to jump in there. I've been kind of looking for one lately. Totally off the subject, but so I was talking to Christian Rose about this the other day. So I started Game of Thrones. I got to like episode 9. I just couldn't do it, man. I just couldn't dig it. So I'm looking for something else. So maybe Cobra Kai might be it. It might be the one because I already know the backstory there, right? Like, All right, cool. All right, Bailey, let's have a little fun, man. So I'm gonna show you some pictures, and I just want you to react to them. Tell me, some of the first, words that comes to mind. All right, here's number 1.
Zeke Zishi, Chris Rose, Judd Janitor, Cole Havens.
So if you're listening right now, we're looking at a ZOWA Live Entertainment Wrestling logo where Florida Man's done most of his wrestling there. Okay. How about this picture?
Oh, man. I think I said it earlier. Bootleg Kevin Owens.
So there it is. What he's talking about. So this is Bailey like in the really early days, right? This was before Purple Guy, right?
No, Purple Guy was first.
Okay, Purple Guy was first. Okay.
This picture would have been late 2021.
Okay.
It was I turned heel for the first time in my career in January of 2021, and I was just kind of a guy who liked to do a lot of Kevin Owens moveset. And don't get me wrong, I had a lot of good matches that I look back on fondly in that field.
Yeah.
My favorite one that I told you with Christian Rose in the steel cage was when I was looking like this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you say bootleg Kevin Owens, like, I mean, God, you nailed it. Like, that's, oh man, I think that's why it's kind of funny because you've nailed it so much. All right, let's take a look at this one here. We talk about Purple Guys.
Yeah,
looks like you're giving a famouser to Cole Havens here in the purple outfit. But talk about you in the purple, man. You were babyface, correct?
Yeah, just the whitest meat of baby faces.
Yeah.
Just a really plucky guy. Like, yeah. And I had a lot of really special matches with that character as well.
Yeah.
But
this was 2020. You two guys look like you're the only ones not wearing a mask. Look at everybody in the crowd. Everybody's wearing a mask.
yeah.
I think there's Matt Hatter back here with a mask on.
Yeah, I think we used to wear them on our entrances as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
So
I had
good
a lot
stuff.
of fun in all phases of my career. I'd say this one, I was more of a bootleg Dolph Ziggler without the look so much, but definitely the move set. Dolph Ziggler was a huge influence on the beginning of my career.
Sure.
But I really didn't get like how much character work helps your career in wrestling. It makes the world a difference.
Yeah. And you got like a little headband here, kind of Cobra Kai-ish, little, you know what I mean there? So
yeah,
getting over in the baby face. All right, I got a couple more here for you.
Right on.
Tell me what you think when you see this one.
Oh man. First word that came to mind was fun.
Yeah.
Those photo shoots were always fun. Our promos were always fun. Just gold.
So if you're listening right now, it's a picture of Florida Man and he's sitting in this chair, standing behind him is his manager from the bank, the Shane Show.
Yes, sir.
All right. And got two more here for you. This one, how about this one from the bank? You know, this is when I think y'all are doing a storyline of, everybody wanting Dakota in the bank but you. And so you were constantly trying to keep him out. But look at you here. You kind of looking a little mob bossy here. You know what I mean? A little, maybe even a little Cuban. You got your hair slicked back and but talk to me about this picture.
This chapter of the bank was a lot of fun. Some of the promos we did with Dakota were of our funniest,
Yeah.
Because we had that dynamic where like me and Dakota had beef prior to the bank even starting, and then when he turned heel, they wanted him to join, I didn't, and we got a lot of gold out of that.
Yeah, that was good, man. I enjoyed that storyline. So
thank you.
And there's a T Money in his T Moneyest outfit there.
He looks like such a baby there. I know it hasn't been that long, but he's changed and grown a lot in his career so far, and I'm proud of him for it. So,
all right, last one. This has nothing to do with wrestling, man, but I was in Firehouse Subs about a week ago, right? And I always like to see what kind of hot sauces they got, because I like hot sauce on my sandwiches and stuff. And I found this one. It's called Florida Man's Lunacy. Huh. And almost, like with the exception of hair, I think they might owe you some royalties here. But I just want to ask you, this is like a pineapple hot sauce. Have you seen this before?
I have not, actually. It's interesting.
Yeah, it is. It was an interesting taste too. It was more pineapple-y than hot sauce. So, of course I had to try it, you know what I mean? So I just didn't know. But Firehouse Subs, they carry this. You can buy it. It's like one of their hot sauces that they have there. So I don't know what firefighters and subs got to do with Florida, but there we are. Yeah. But funny. Yeah, funny stuff there, though. All right, man. A couple questions for you on the way out, man, just to get to know Florida Man a little bit better here. So if you can just answer these for me. What is your favorite Florida beach?
Ooh, I like St. Pete a lot. We've probably gone on the most vacations to St. Petersburg.
Right.
Another good one I like is Clearwater Beach. Anything along the Gulf Coast, really nice. Which is weird coming from a Miami guy. It's kind of side there, but the sand's just softer and the waves are nicer on the Gulf. So
gotcha. So what are your summer plans, man? Headed back out to the Florida beaches maybe or something? You going anywhere you've never been before?
Yeah, hopefully at some point, man. I not really sure what I'm supposed to do until I get cleared by my doctor to do anything as of right now, but I'm always down for a trip. I like to travel. Sometimes I want to venture outside of Florida, visit the West Coast.
Yeah.
Some of those other states there, and just, broaden my horizons.
So I asked a lot of people. I said, "Hey, I said, I'm having a Florida man coming on the podcast. Like, what's the one question, you'd like for me to ask him?" And outside of when you're coming back, people ask me. They go, "We always hear about his high-rise condo in Boca Raton. They want to know how much does it cost? How much did your high-rise condo cost you?" I'm like, "Well, I don't think he's going to tell us, but I'll ask him."
Well, that's an interesting question. Some people would question the way I acquired said high rise.
True.
I'll just leave it at that.
I mean, I didn't want to get in trouble, so I just said I thought he bought it. Primo from the pod is asking, have you ever heard of Chokoloskee, Florida? Chokoloskee?
I cannot say I have. No,
Can't say I have either. Must be recommending a beach for you out there. Must be. What's your favorite part about being a wrestler?
That's a tough question too. First thing that comes to mind is like the connections we make, both with friends and with fans. I have met some of the people I hold, closest and dearest to my heart in wrestling, in some of these other wrestlers, I call my best friends. And seeing how much we, how much impact we have on a fan's life. They could be having a bad time, and one show will just completely change their outlook or their attitude. And, it does the same for us when we feel that adrenaline from them. So I'd say the connections on both sides.
Okay. What's your favorite food off the grill? Like if it's your choice to cook something on the grill, what's your favorite? What are you taking?
Like me, myself?
Yeah, you
cooking?
Yeah.
I'll probably nail a pork chop better than anything. But if someone else is cooking, I'm a big shrimp guy.
Nice.
Shrimp tacos, especially, are go-to when I'm down in Florida. We have a rule on vacation that we're not allowed to eat anywhere that we could back in Illinois.
I love it. Yeah.
Everywhere I go, you got shrimp tacos or not?
Right. Yeah.
Then I already know what I want.
That's what I like to do when I go on vacation. I like to hit the local spots. I like to hit the hole in the walls. That has good food. That kind of stuff. But who's your favorite Miami Dolphin of all time?
I feel like it's not a very popular one. And it's not like bandwagony, but I really admire Tua Tagovailoa.
Okay.
He's
been through a lot.
He's been through a lot. He's one of the most unproblematic, nice players you like, and God love him. I hope for some reasons that he doesn't play anymore, but if he does, I want him to be safe and healthy because he's such a good guy. So yeah, probably him or I can't think of any of those right now.
Okay. What's your favorite road snack when you're traveling to a show? You stop at a gas station, you grab something to drink. What's the snack you grabbing?
I like a good wrap.
Okay.
Keep it light on the way to shows.
Yep.
Not so much on the way home.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Or even some kind of hot garbage,
Right. Yeah.
But and usually on the way to shows, it's like a water or a Gatorade. On the way home, it's like a iced coffee or a chocolate milk or something.
Gatorade. I see what you did there. I see what you did there. Well done, friend. What's the farthest you've traveled to wrestle?
The farthest, let's see, probably Minot, North Dakota.
Okay.
That was in like 2017. I was still pretty new. I just hopped in the truck with Christian Rose and a couple others, and that was a 14-hour drive there and a 14-hour drive back.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a long time in the car. I hope you annoyed the shit out of Christian the whole time.
No, but funny story about that trip is we were all doing legs, of the trip, taking turns.
Yeah.
And I had the second to last leg, and we had enough gas to get home. And so I was like, I don't even want to stop. I'll just do both the last legs. I'll finish strong, whatever.
Yeah.
Like not even 20 minutes into the last leg, I remember one minute I was driving, and the next I heard the strips on the.
Oh yeah, fell asleep.
They were like, "All right, maybe we should pull over and switch driving."
Yeah.
I've been known to fall asleep at the wheel quite a bit.
All right, yeah. So if you got Bailey in the car with you going anywhere, just let him ride. Just let him ride. All right, 2 more, man. I gotta talk a little music with you, man. What type of music you like? Who's your favorite band?
Oh man, I like tons of music. I have fallen out of country recently, but I used to listen to country, and Luke Combs was one of my favorites.
Okay.
A few of his hits, but I listen to a lot of pop right now. I like Sabrina Carpenter, actually.
Sure.
Big Swiftie.
Yeah. Okay.
Right
on.
And I like some classic stuff too. Queen, I think, is one of my favorite classic rock bands.
Nice.
And like Motley Crue. So yeah, really, if you just open my playlist and hit shuffle, you're gonna get one of every genre.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I like that. All right, last one, man. If somebody's visiting Sterling, Illinois, okay, and they coming in hot and hungry,
yes,
where's the place to go eat in Sterling?
Well,
you can even name a couple if you don't want to, latch it to 1 or 2.
Sure. We got like a lot of little like mom and pop diners.
Nice.
We got one called Mom's Diner. But everyone's go-to in town is Maple Pancake House.
Okay.
Really good breakfast food. Great for hangovers or just Sunday mornings.
Yeah. Right.
If you like Mexican food, we have no shortage of Mexican restaurants as well. One of my personal favorites is called El Jacalito.
Okay.
Downtown on 3rd Street. They got really good quesadillas.
All right. Nice. Well, Mexican's my favorite type of culture food. So, yeah. I get jealous because my wife, she goes, she has to travel to El Paso a lot for work. El Paso, Texas.
Nice.
And every time she comes back, while she's there, sending me pictures of this beautiful food that, she's like, you would love it here. You would love it here. So I want to thank everybody listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all those podcast platforms out there, including SportzWire Radio. I'm sitting down with the Florida man. About to get you out of here, man. Thank you for being on the podcast today, man. Really appreciate it. Like I said, a lot of people have been asking about you. So hopefully this answers a lot of questions. Where can people find you on social media if they want to follow you?
Yeah, I think it's at Hey It's Me Bailey B, or a variation of that on all platforms. Snapchat, Instagram. I'm Bailey Bright on YouTube. I post a lot of my matches on my YouTube channel, so go check that out. I have a TikTok page. And then I have a personal Facebook account and a wrestling Facebook account. So if you'd like to know more about wrestling, go ahead and follow just the Bailey Bright page. Should say Florida Man in parentheses. And yeah.
All right, man. Well, thanks for being on the pod, brother. Heal up, come back. Fresh and looking forward to seeing you back out on the scene. So once again, Bailey Bright, Florida Man, on the podcast. Go follow him everywhere. Look for him to show up here sometime, hopefully soon, after he gets all healed up, man. So be happy to have you back. So want to let you guys know next week we're going to talk about our top SummerSlam matches of all time. The flagship podcast for the Sit Down Marks podcast is going to be live again next week, so we'll be talking about that. My Territory Treasures episodes are out now. I just got done talking about the Skyscrapers and Barry Windham, so make sure you go and check those. Sorry, I had a little audio there. Make sure you go and check out on all those podcast platforms out there. Want to thank everyone listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SportzWire Radio, Audible, all those podcast platforms out there. Once again, thank you to Florida Man for being on the pod, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a blast and an honor.
Absolutely, brother. All right, for Florida Man, I am the Dirty Bird. We'll see you next time. Keep spreading the good word of wrestling.